All right, we have a PPD episode here saying safety is a concern. A rise in Americans moving in Japan. Who could have seen that coming? Let's see.
Americans are moving to Japan, okay? For its safety
Not a shocker.
and affordability. Insider story. By the way, can you guys imagine Ricky living in Japan?
Yeah.
Right? What would happen? What's your name? You know,
Sumo wrestling, maybe.
The number of Americans relocating to Japan has seen a steady rise, with 6,642 individuals making a move in 2022. The population of American expats in Japan has reached 60,804, a significant increase of 57,000 in 2020, according to the country's Ministry of Justice.
Wow.
Safety is a primary motivator for Americans choosing Japan as their new home. As Veronica Hansen, who moved to Japan with her family, explains, my children had to do active shooter drills. I just exploded and said, we don't have to stay here. Let's go. The country's reputation for safety and minimal presence of gun violence provides a sense of security. Affordability is another key factor driving the migration. Alex Evans, who moved to rural Mukaishima Island, emphasizes the cost advantages, saying, for a 3-bedroom house, I pay 65,000 yen, which is the same as $463 a month. If I were in Hiroshima, my rent would be more expensive. So, any consideration of wanting to move to Japan? Ricky, I'll go to you first.
I have you know what I want to go, what I would want to see? How many of those are Japanese American versus just American?
So keep in mind, this is an insider story. Insider story is typically leaning left. So the story they're trying to say, I don't know if you caught two or three comments they made.
I totally caught
gun,
it.
Yeah. Training, and I have to be careful with this and be careful with that. So all this stuff about America, this is why I want to go over there.
Yeah, I think it's, look, here's the reality behind things. I love Mexico. When we go, me and Erica, we have property in Mexico, we have family in Mexico. I love Mexico. And Mexico.
By the way, I'm in Eastern Europe at the moment, if you guys don't know yet. I've become an expat. I've relocated. Soon we'll be going to Dubai for business and just traveling the world, doing content all over the world when the time arises. It's much safer here than the United States. The stereotypes of the rest of the world that now I'm starting to believe after being here is from on high is just that stereotype. It's not actually based in reality. Even when I've been to Mexico with friends plenty of times, completely safe. I can go here at 3, 4 in the morning, be completely safe. Women have told me here it's completely safe, 3, 4 in the morning. But when they travel to Western Europe, like London and stuff, living all around England, they absolutely will not be caught dead in the middle of the night because stuff will happen to them. Western Europe is typically degenerate, just like the United States. This whole notion that it's safe there is absolutely false. If anything, you're going to see the stark contrast and double, or I should say rethink living in the United States, or at least questioning everything you've been told and thought up until now. You have to see it for yourself, but what you've been told is not true at all.
When it comes out to gun violence is a lot more dangerous than America is, right? Because a lot of people don't know that you can't, it's not legal to carry guns in Mexico, but yet all the criminals in Mexico have the guns, and they many times in gunfights, they outdo the military in Mexico. But I would still not want to move to Mexico, though it's supposedly, that's home or whatever it is. It's the motherland, but I wouldn't want to go back.
How come?
It's just because this is like, okay, good. You could live in Japan for $400 a month. Where's your life gonna go? What legacy you're gonna leave behind? Like, how many people are building businesses over there? You can say, wow, look what they left for their kids. Like, I'm looking at Pat right now. We went to his house to go have dinner earlier. By the way, incredible dinner, Pat. I don't even know what Saturday at the beginning. It was just like a bunch of green stuff. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna eat it,
Some meatballs.
And then I'm like, I'm going for that immediately. But it was, so anyway. So I'm like, Pat has a couple, guys, security guards here. He lives in a good neighborhood. You have to say you're like his guards are his. There's people in his gate before you go in. They're armed. There's people going around 24 hours. Like, bro, why don't you just build a business and go live in a safer neighborhood? Like, I don't have to worry about that happening in my neighborhood. I live in a gated neighborhood, 24-hour security. I don't ever think about, my nephew's gonna get killed by gun violence. That is just you might. The only place I would have to worry about that is where I grew up in East Bakersfield, where that makes sense. But why don't you go instead of running away from building something big?
Shout out Bakersfield.
Build something big and get out of the neighborhoods that potentially can have those things happen. Because like this whole shooting, there's guns everywhere. That's a bunch of bullshit. It's not true. Yeah, we have a lot of guns everywhere, but they also don't tell you how many times guns have prevented mass murders and how they.
All right, I get him leaning on the right on this issue and trying to make it seem like it's a narrative that's being painted about gun violence in America, which, yes, this is where this stuff gets tricky because it's a half truth. He is right. The narrative does get painted that guns are bad, that we have incredible amounts of gun violence. The half truth on the other side is we actually do have an insane amount of gun violence compared to other Western nations. We do have too many public tragedies that keep happening. But the problem isn't the guns, which the left paints. The problem is acquiring a weapon, or how we go about acquiring weapons, or who you're allowed to sell to, right? If you have records, if you've been arrested, if you need to do a more thorough background check for a high-powered gun, a weapon of any kind, it's non-existent. From what I remember, you can go to a gun show and you can buy various weapons with absolutely no checks happening whatsoever. Now that's super lax, but there needs to be a way. We need to have some form of a vetting process. I don't know how this could be achieved. I don't pretend to have the brains to know how to answer this, but if you look like you're mentally ill, if you look like you got problems or you got a criminal record, a violent criminal record, there should be some way for people to know before you try to purchase this weapon. I don't know what the answer to that is, and I'm not going to pretend to know. I love my guns. I'm for fucking 2A all day, baby, but it's got some holes that we need to plug. Somebody somewhere got to have an answer to it.
They protected families. You go to Japan, yeah, cool, bro. They don't nobody has guns, but the government can turn on you whenever you want. Like, it's so crazy to think that giving the government that much power over you, and some people literally want to do that, that's excruciating to my brain to think that you will only want the government to have power over who controls the guns. Every time that's worked out, every time that's happened, it's never worked out good for the population. So no, I wouldn't move. I don't care. I don't care if gun violence went up by 100% in America. I still wouldn't move because I could still move to a safer neighborhood and I could have security like you do, and that's it. Does it have to really resort to? Yeah, bro, we're humans. That's what it has to be resort to. People have been killing each other. Do you guys forget the first murder in human history was Adam and Cain and Abel? It was one brother killing the other. You're never gonna run away from this shit. Like, come on, get real, bro. Like, people are going to kill each other no matter where you go.
So for a second there, I thought Adam killed Eve. I was like, I got to reread.
I'm sure he thought about it.
I got to reread that story.
I
don't remember that.
Came in
Dave,
don't give this guy any ideas, bro. My name's Adam. I can't have that on my record.
Dave, think about this. The first murder in human history were God's grandchildren, literally.
All right, guy going off, the deep end with these stories, but we do have a violence issue, but I think it stems more from like a societal problem. I think mental illness is the issue because, look, we've had guns available since the inception of America. We've never had public tragedies happen in this manner. Columbine was the first one, I believe, that got the airtime it did, or at least that involved kids in some school, which, copycat mass offenders have copied since then. That's what the outlet is that they choose to use and do. And it's very unfortunate and it's tragic. There's no other way to put it. But other countries, I think Finland, if I'm not mistaken, has like a higher gun per capita rate than the United States. And they don't have nearly these many problems. I can't remember. Somebody has to check me on that. But I don't think guns are the main issue. I think the main issue is mental illness is rampant in society. Loneliness, isolation, the damage from social media, and, God knows what they're consuming on there. So until we address the factors that cause people mental degradation, I don't think it matters whether guns are banned or not. Because, for example, China has mass stabbings. If you type mass stabbing in China, and it's like very tragic there too, because it happens with kindergartners. Like, a guy will go in slashing kindergartners 12, 20, 30 at a time. And then the left will make the argument, of course, I could already hear it in my head. Well, if he had a weapon, he could have gotten to way more people in a quicker amount of time. But the point is, like, why did this guy get to the point where he wanted to do this to these people? Whether it's a knife, whether it's a gun, whether it's a bat, whether it's whatever. Why is this happening in the first place? We should be living in a society where people are mentally stable enough that you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to look over your shoulder all the time because some psycho can come jab a knife in your kidney or blow your brains out. I mean, that's the truth. So how about we stop talking about the tools that are used and we start talking about the mental aspect of the person using said tools? Let's address that first. And then we could have a conversation, like I mentioned earlier, about checking somebody's, mental health history, criminal history for them to be able to buy a firearm in the first place. I think a basic check like that is common sense. We're not trampling on anybody's 2A rights, just doing a basic check of that nature that would, disqualify you from owning a firearm. But I don't foresee us fixing this problem anytime soon because it's absolute catnip for politicians. The left, it galvanizes them at the polls. They're always going to talk about gun reform and stuff like this. It's kicking the can down the road, not really talking about the mental illness. And of course, the same thing, the right gets galvanized because, look, they're trying to take our guns away. They're going to blame the guns. So, left and right wins from tragedies. That's the most disgusting part of this. Just remember, left wing, right wing, it's the same bird. Envision that in your brain. When they call you a left winger or they call you a right winger, you're literally being laughed at by high society because it's the same coin, it's just a different side. It's the same animal, man. Same bird is flapping the fucking wings, whether it's the left or the right one. It's the same policies that put you in the position you're in life. And those at the top with backroom deals, with handshakes, with smirks and signatures on papers are the ones that benefit from all of this. You at the bottom deal with the consequences of the policies from the people on high. They don't. They live in gated communities. They have armed guards. They're in another planet compared to you. And that's the reality of the situation we're in. But don't worry, because even in my own comment section, I could already see it. There's going to be a, quote, gun nut, that's what they call them, that's going to be defending the Second Amendment. And then there's going to be some liberal woke-tard that's going to be talking about how guns are the problem. And that conversation's never going to get anywhere. And one side entrenches in their own aspect, the other in the other. They'll keep voting for their side because that's the ideology, and we're further divided with less and less power. That's the game. In order to really change the system, we have to do something called coalition building. You have to reach across the aisle with your hand out ready to shake. Until then, dude, good fucking luck. Look up history. Look up great men. Look at all the greatest men in history. They were all coalition builders. They managed to bring many different people, different tribes, different ideologies together, concentrate power, and make a difference. That's the most dangerous type of man, the most dangerous type of behavior you could exhibit in society. Those are the ones that they go after and kill mercilessly first before they gain any traction in society. Look it up.